Morning here in Camp Massatators, and if you're going, gee, didn't their camp last night have more of a beach? Yes, yes it did. The river is still rising in our general vicinity. I was looking at gauges going down the river trying to figure out exactly where the surge is, but I mean, we're at like 8 feet up now from where we were prior to all this storming. We are near to an Ingram Barge Co. station, and so we've got a lot of traffic. That's actually them over there. We could see their lights. So we're hearing all sorts of barges coming by, connecting, dropping tows. It was a bit of a loud night, but fortunately all the bugs and everything kind of drowned that out, including Tater's frog friends. So today we need to do a water restock down at a campground nearby, which is going to be kind of a pain. In this section in general, the stuff we need is all further back from the river. So there's none of this like pulling up at a little park.
I like the little parks.
Little parks that are right there. Instead, it's leave Matt. Blondie goes off on a grand adventure without me, comes back and goes, oh my God, I've seen so many things. Here's 2 seconds of footage. Meanwhile, I'm filming my foot for like half an hour. There's dialogue, there's plot development, there's nail growth. So it does look like, per any of the weather reports we have, which I trust about that much, that this period of fierce storm seems to be over, at least for the moment. I'm sure that will last hours to days, potentially. Other good news, though, it's going to stay in the 80s. We're not going to jump straight back into the swampy heat. We're watching more debris than usual go through. We also kind of figured out that the muddy water is probably due to the rising water levels and not anything in particular from that one plant. So Taters was kind of doubtful about the water rising, but if you look out there, there's a little sandbar and you can just see a sign. That was basically all above water, very shallow. It's a bird nesting area. So interestingly enough, these surges in river levels seem to be hitting Cairo overnight, not during the day. This is noticeably deeper than when we came in. So we're not having to walk the boat on the plus side, and maybe it'll give us a little shove. Downside, all sorts of trash in the water. I have an irrational craving for root beer floats at the moment. Jen is currently off trying to get water, and I am sitting here in the floating refuse. Unfortunately, there wasn't a good spot to pull the boat up here. The higher water has things kind of interesting.
All right, so walked up the road from the boat ramp. Unfortunately, it turns out that Belmont State Park campground is completely inaccessible from the river. There's thick forest and steep cliffs in the way. So I walked up the road. I tried the church because we had good luck with those in the Alabama and the Florida part of the ECT as far as having spigots outside, but didn't see a spigot outside. And then walked over to this lodge. A lady came out of the lodge and was very, very nice and let me fill up out of this hose. And there was even a little kitten.
And Jen made friends with a lodge owner up there, so we were able to get water, and she didn't have to climb through bushes forever. That campground is not very accessible. No. And so now we just have to make it around the Ingram HQ here, or whatever this is, and then hopefully it'll quiet down a little.
So according to Bob back there, this was the most rain he's seen in this area in his lifetime, and he's 72 years old.
The weather warning about one of the storms hitting us the other night, the bad night, it actually said, it called the rainfall historical and also warned that you may want to seek shelter not on the ground floor. So yeah, that was fun. So we were just trying to go over Wolf Island and we went to the left figuring that was the main channel. There's a wing dam over there that might have been out of the water previously, but there were like rapids going over it. I was all excited. I was like, whoa! And Tater was like, ah! So what I found out is if that we are about to be swept over something, Taters can actually paddle. Our speed actually got really, really high. So I'm thinking what I need to do is play that sound like there's rapids right behind us the entire way. It's the hitchhiker lentilla device.
It looked okay until we got close, and then we got close and it looked like Chain of Rocks from the other side.
I'm like 90% sure we can make it through. She doesn't remember what Chain of Rocks looked like. Chain of Rocks was like 5 times bigger than that.
The point is we can't see what the other side, but it sounds like raging rapids, and it got my adrenaline
She can't see
going.
distances very well. She's got a thing with depth of field. I could see over it. It was going to be like a drop of a foot maybe, and we would have gone, woo!
After that initial adrenaline rush, of narrowly avoiding getting sucked over the rapids. We had to paddle really hard for probably about 20 minutes to paddle against the current and get back around and back into the channel that we should have been in from the beginning. So lesson learned, it seems like on this part of the river, we really want to try to stay in the buoys or right outside the buoys. And that's because as long as you're in the main shipping channel, it's going to be smooth sailing and it's maintained and for sure goes. Anything outside of that, there's just too many obstacles. There's wing dams all over the place. They extend out really far, and with the high water, a lot of them are partially submerged, as well as natural rocks and other barriers. So it just doesn't seem worth it to go into the side channels or even go too far outside of the buoys.
And we keep having stuff like this happening without warning. So yeah, it doesn't look that bad from this side, but we keep hitting these wing dams and we think we're in the channel because there are now marker buoys all over the place, and sometimes those are nothing, sometimes those are Blondie stress inducing.
Well, there's so much noise and you can't tell from the other side.
Okay, and we just had a kind little chat with this guy because we can't tell what's going on. Channels appear to not be channels, buoys are all over. And as it turned out, I guess we were kind of out in the middle between a northbound and a southbound tow. It was back a ways. So he let us know and backed off. The funniest thing was his surprise that we had a radio. He actually said, "Oh yeah, thanks for having a radio." I am so craving root beer floats or some sort of meringue pie. And yet again we have a headwind, and yet again we're hearing thunder off to the south. We were fighting headwinds off and on throughout the day, but the plus side is, since the river winds back and forth so wildly and goes in pretty much every direction, the headwind fighting wasn't sustained for any length of time. Oh. Okay, big whirlpool. Once again, I am very happy to have a very stable boat. In a kayak, that might have been more of an adventure.
The last few hours have been super calm and idyllic out here. I basically got into my very most relaxed Zen state paddling. And then we started to get some tailwind gusts going, and Matt basically lit up with joy because it's an opportunity to get out the awesomely colored sail. We both are really hoping that one more day on this trip is able to top our Lake Pepin winds. This is not it so far. And that was just such a happy, joyful, fun ride across that lake.
5 o'clock and we decided to take a stretch break. Been hearing rumbling off in the distance, drizzle here and there, but not really much of anything today.
We just crossed from Kentucky into Tennessee. So we're now on the Missouri-Tennessee border. But in a minute here, when we go around this corner, we're gonna do a 180-degree turn and start heading north. And at that point, we're gonna go back into Kentucky. It's called the Kentucky Bend, and it's a giant oxbow. And the land inside of that oxbow is actually owned by Kentucky, even though it has no connection to the rest of Kentucky.
So it's 7 o'clock, which is a little early, but we are getting a little close to New Madrid in a couple of miles, and we saw the sandbar and decided we're probably going to set up here for the night. Yeah, we're giving up a few miles of progress, but this stood out to both of us. Mix of protection, flat, and scenic. If only it had internet. It's funny how much faster the current looks when you're not in it.
Yeah, because you can see it going the opposite direction.
Yeah, especially we got those 2 logs. There's no big sinkholes like what we were in over there.
Great day on the river today. Mostly really idyllic, dreamy paddling, super relaxing. Did about 40 miles. Did have some interesting stuff happening this morning. The channel got really confusing there for a while. There were buoys all over, buoys on both sides of the banks, and the ones in the channel didn't seem to have really been maintained. So that was where we ended up accidentally out of the channel on the wrong side of the island and had to backtrack against the current to avoid hitting some rapids. That was also where we had a couple of tows talking about us on the radio, and we finally got a chance to speak up ourselves. And the tows were surprisingly grateful that we could actually coordinate which side of the channel to cross on. And we are ending the day at an absolutely 5-star campsite, tucked in on a pristine beach between lush forest on one side and mesmerizing river currents on the other. Home sweet home for the night.